Greetings. This is Dr. Monica on, what is this, Wednesday, April 13th, 2022. I am the author of Wounds of Wisdom. I just want to come on for a few minutes because I woke up thinking about someone and a particular subject. So the topic that I wanted to talk about today is Christians are making God look bad. Now, before you tune out, let me read the beginning of my introduction to my book, Wounds of Wisdom. Accountability may feel like an attack when you are unable to acknowledge that your behavior wounded or scarred others. So today I want to talk about two individuals that I encountered, share an example, and talk about love, listen, lead, and learn. Too often, Christians get offended and want to correct others when we share our wounds, when we share our experiences, and we are transparent about our feelings, as I did in Wounds of Wisdom. Some may say, well, you shouldn't think of like that. You shouldn't say those things. What would good Jesus do? Some can throw scripture at you. Sometimes those come across as judgmental and chastisements as opposed to delivering in love, as some Christians hide behind. Also, some Christians don't know what they believe. Some don't recognize that some of their beliefs are flawed and will never admit it. Instead, they'll hide and pretend to save face and avoid embarrassment. Also, some don't demonstrate their beliefs. Instead, they practice them. Let's look at the difference between practice and demonstrate. Practice is habitual or expected procedure for doing things or a way of doing things, even a way of saying some things. Versus demonstration is practical exhibition or explanation of how and clearly showing existence of truth, proof, and evidence. Now, we all know that there are some things that are unexplainable. However, if you cannot meet individuals where they are and connect and relate, your message, your quoting scripture, you are ineffective, and they elevate you as opposed to elevating God. Also, some people can't receive it at that time because you are being more judgmental than operating in love, listening, learning, and leading. This brings me to Robert, a 22-year-old young man who was on the subway yesterday in the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia. And he was tuning into a broadcast that I was on yesterday where I was speaking. And after I spoke, he said, "You get it. You get it." He said, I'm 22, but we're smart. I'm smart. People want to tell us what to do. You guys want to tell us what to do. And no one wants to listen to us. But we're watching you guys. We're watching y'all. We need some guidance. We're not getting it. We need some direction. We're not getting it. I heard what Robert said. And what's happening is some people aren't lovingly listening and learning from generations and leading by example, by true example, not by saying. In order to lead by example, you have to know who you are. And a lot of people don't know who they are. They're pretending behind a mask of beliefs, of things that they just don't understand, instead of being authentic, real, and true. And people like Robert are watching. It's why some can't reach this next generation. It's why some won't listen. It's why some are rebelling. It's also why some are choosing to end their lives. So we have to learn to demonstrate what we believe and not just practice and hide behind masks. Then when I was on a tour, there was a 74-year-old woman. She said one of the same things that Robert was saying. She says, you listen. You let me talk. My siblings don't listen to me. My children don't listen to me. They just want to tell me what to do as if I don't know anything. They don't respect me. She says, you let me tell my story. You listen. You listen in love. You learn from my experiences. I can learn from you. And I can allow you to lead me because I'm teachable. Now that's a 74-year-old woman versus Robert at 22. It's important to demonstrate love, listen, learn, and lead. This brings me to an experience I had when I was the assistant dean at a university, and I was teaching a business class. Now, I've taught critical thinking and problem solving for over 10 years, and there was one student that everybody complained about. She was in her 30s. She was an older student. Nobody liked her. Everybody thought she was slacking off. And she came in sluggish each day. She didn't care. She was discouraged. She had other things going on in her life, but she was going back to college trying to improve and better herself. But nobody liked her. As I started noticing, many of the students, especially those who considered themselves the elite, the all-knowing, they would come to me and said there were several students that they didn't want on their team. There were about 4 of them. Each of these 4 individuals came to me and spoke to me about people not liking them, about not being respected, not about the professors just not caring, and told me that I listened and that I cared. So what I did is I put these 4 troubled students that nobody want, the rejects, on one team as a project. They all came individually and complained to me about what one was not doing, what the other one wasn't doing, and they weren't going to let their grade suffer. I said, bingo, you don't let your grade suffer. So you have to learn to love, listen, learn, and then lead. Allow each person on that team to do that. Fast forward, everybody in the class provided their presentation, and the presentation that was the best were from the 4 rejects. Everyone was floored. But what I did was you throw them all into a group because I saw their potential. They were going to sink or swim, but because their GPA was high, I knew that they were not going to allow someone else to bring down their grade. What did that do in the end? They were respected by the other students because, one, they were given opportunity. They were able to improve, increase their self-esteem. So what can Christians learn from that particular experience? We have to meet people where they are, not throwing scripture at them, being practical, demonstrate love. But if you don't love yourself, you can't demonstrate love to anybody else. So first learn to love yourself. Learn how to love yourself properly. Then learn to listen. Listen to other people. Their experiences or their views may not be yours. Respect what they're saying. Try to understand why they're saying that from their experiences. Because if you don't listen, what you're going to do is you're going to push people away instead of drawing them near. And learn. What can you learn from someone else instead of being offended by that? I'm sure people were offended when I first said Christians are making God look bad. But hopefully this little talk, or whatever you want to, you can identify with that. You can See what we're saying. See what people are saying and why people are moving away from Christianity. And I'm not beating up on Christianity, but any religion, organized religion, because we're seeing the same things demonstrated in the environments. And then learn to lead by example. Tomorrow, I am going to be on the National Black Unity News with host Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. You can go on my Facebook, and we're going to be talking extensively about Wounds of Wisdom. If you don't have a copy of the book, get it at drmonicajackson.com and go to the National Black Unity group in order to watch tomorrow's broadcast. So this is Dr. Monica signing off until next time. As I always like to end my broadcast, don't you allow anyone to steal your peace or joy, and don't you steal and rob anyone of their peace and joy. Have an amazing day, and thank you for tuning in.